Final Boy Status is a podcast about scary movies and the stuff that happens in them. The entire horror genre is generally frightening and disturbing, so if you're a kid, be sure to ask your parents if it's okay for you to listen. Or don't. You'd probably be cooler if you didn't ask for their permission. But then again, I won't tell you how to live your life. Also, we will be discussing spoilers during this podcast, so don't say we didn't warn you.
Alright everyone, welcome to another installment of Final Boy Status, your favorite horror movie podcast. We're super psyched to be here. I am Adam, I am today's host. I have with me Lanson, Lappin to my right, hello, and Luke Haueter.
Yeah, on a completely different camera. Adam has no idea where I am. He's looking at a space, hoping that I'm going to edit it in later.
He could be anywhere. He could be in this room.
I'm the international man of mystery.
All there is a stick with a green ball at the top, just in the air.
Don't ask how the ball got green.
I have to react to that.
Classic acting.
We're super stoked to do this episode. If you're new to the show, here's how it goes. We take a horror movie that we want to watch, that we like, and we watch it, and this podcast is about surviving the horror movie, similar to the way you probably do with your friends if you're watching a movie and you're screaming at the screen for the main person not to make the stupid mistake or not to separate from their group or not to double tap the guy to kill him and kick him while he's down. All those things that frustrate people with horror movies.
About double tapping so much.
all the time.
It's a common problem. Like if someone just
For real, dude.
take a,
They're so sure. They're so sure they've done a good job.
they're like, they
have
fell
not.
over. They're done.
I don't know. He fell down the stairs. That's probably enough.
He's probably okay.
I mean, falling down the stairs did the Home Alone guys in, right?
Yeah, they were done after that.
They
were done,
famously
yeah.
died. Yeah, the sequels were just generations after, seeking revenge against.
I'm just imagining an alternate cut of Home Alone where one of them falls down the stairs, cracks his head on the bottom step, full dies. Kevin McAllister goes to prison for manslaughter.
We're no longer the Wet Bandits.
We can't find our son. Kevin,
What'd you do? So that's what the podcast is. So our movie this week is to commemorate. Not commemorate. What's the word? To celebrate.
To celebrate, to hype up,
to celebrate the second movie coming into theaters on Friday, which is when this podcast is dropping. So today, the Quiet Place. I was thinking it was The Quiet Place, but
this is
one out of many Quiet Places.
this is the most special of episodes because. I mean, this is like out of order. We've already started taping season 2 of the show. Spoiler alert, season 2 is coming. Do we want to say when? Or let's say that for the plugs at the end, right?
Yeah. Let's stick to the end to see when we're going to start dropping more episodes.
But like we are so genuinely excited for A Quiet Place 2 that we like we've already recorded our episode for this week. Like we're jumping
This is an extra
in.
episode.
We found time to do it at 1 a.m, taping this episode because we're just excited to talk about it. So this is out of sequence. We've already taped like 3-4 episodes for season 2, and we're out of sequence recording this, and we're going to edit it and release it in like the next 24 hours. So you guys are getting this as fresh as it gets.
It's going to be crazy.
Fresh to death.
And then we'll hit that second movie fresh out of theaters, and it's just gonna be so good.
Get yourselves a nice little two-parter the next couple of weeks while you're waiting for that sweet season 2 content. You guys are waiting so patiently.
So,
So anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway.
The Quiet Place. A Quiet Place. I'm gonna make that mistake.
A Quiet Place.
Luke, why don't you give us a rundown on the premise of this bad boy?
Hey, I would love to. A Quiet Place is a movie about a post-apocalyptic world where aliens have fallen to Earth on the back of a meteor. These aliens are very, very particular about sound. So anything that they deem to be too loud, they cut down. They just straight kill it. So they have like conquered the planet, and we are in a world where humans have had to adapt to this environment. And we follow the Abbott family. They're never named in the movie because the movie's like completely silent. Any dialogue, there's a little bit of dialogue at the end that's real dialogue, but it's mostly done in sign language. And we learn in the credits that they are the Abbott family. We follow them as they have to confront some of these monsters. This movie, we normally do all of our research ahead of time. This is where we're at. But this, of course, came out in 2018.
Of course, yes.
Of course.
yes.
I knew
have to
that
check.
the whole time.
Yes.
Stars real-life couple John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. And this is John Krasinski's baby.
Yeah.
He got a script from Brian Woods and Scott Beck, and he did a draft of it himself, and that's what he ended up directing. He is also the director of this movie. Also, secret role we were talking about the whole time in this movie. He also played the aliens. He did the motion capture work for the aliens.
Little crab dudes.
The little crabby dude aliens. So yeah, it's a very small cast. It's Krasinski, Blunt, Millicent Simmons, who's actually from our home state of Utah. So shout out there.
Utah. Heck yeah.
Noah Jupe. Everybody else is probably not even worth mentioning. I mean, there's little baby boy what's his face, but who cares, right? Like, kid couldn't even make it to the majors. Why are we even talking about him?
The lesser
He
Abbott.
was the weakest link.
He broke the chain. He doesn't get a mention.
It's like that episode of Doctor Who where the weakest link is played, where the weakest link is killed at the end of every round. It's like that. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
That was all I had to say. I just wanted
Cool.
to bring up Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, I'm
I like
glad
it.
you did. And so, kind of in the... sorry, I'm having a hard time finding words tonight. To help us figure out if we could survive it, because we'll get to that at the end, is usually when we talk about exactly yes or no if we could survive. So right now, we usually just kind of go over our general thoughts on the movie and rank it out of a scale of 13 in quality and in spoopiness, as it is a spoopy
Yes.
movie.
Indeed.
We will be uploading a video as well that's a more straightforward review. So this, like the review section of this video, will just keep really, really short.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So, what, just maybe a few sentences or a few thoughts on what you guys thought in a good out of 13 scale.
Dope.
All right, yeah, I'll go. I would describe this movie as a lean, mean, scary machine. It's good at what it tries to do. It's incredibly well made. I would give it a 12 out of 13. Me personally,
Heck yeah.
I
Nice.
think it's John Krasinski's best movie he's directed yet. But I haven't seen part 2 yet, but
Right.
I think it deserves a lot of praise. I think it's spectacular.
Right on.
What about you, Lance?
Yeah, I feel like this movie it's a lot of fun because it's a premise that I haven't seen before. Now, I mean, I haven't seen a ton of movies out there, but I feel like this one in particular is really kind of cool because it's like in a movie you're used to people like having these deep dialogues and like having all these, sort of monologues and stuff like that. But really, it's much credit to Krasinski as well as the actors to convey so much emotion without making any, sounds with their mouth or anything like that. And it was really cool to see sign language like in a movie. Like I thought that was a really dope aspect of it. So I am going to give it I will give it an 11 out of 13. I thought it was good.
All
It was a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree all around. It's very simple in premise, but I think it really thrives off the simplicity. I think we were kind of making jokes about how a lot of what's happening and maybe even some of the background things that are going on are never really even explained in the movie. It's literally just us kind of in the eyes of the characters living through, I don't even know, this takes place in like a couple of days, right? Or I don't remember any big time jumps going on.
So the biggest time jump happens from the cold open to picking up with the characters later.
So,
which I mean, there's a disclaimer at the beginning of every episode that we're going to get into spoilers. So I don't know why I'm acting precious about this. This movie starts with the death of a very young child.
Yeah.
That happens, like 87 days in, I think the credit says.
Yeah.
And then it jumps forward like 100 days or something. So that's like the biggest time jump.
And then after that, it's just
over the course of like 2 days or something.
A few days. So
yeah.
It definitely is isolated to this moment, and we really don't spend a whole lot of time outside of this in flashbacks or in anything. It's really contained, and I think that is really to the movie's benefit, where you feel like you're in the here and now, and every moment you're kind of with the characters and leaning in your seat with the characters. And so I thought it was very effective as well. Very, just like Luke said, it was what it set out to be, and it was very simply just really good. I don't think it's the best horror movie I've ever seen, but I would give it I'd give it a 10 out of 13. I think it's really good.
Got less impressed as we went down the line, apparently.
Still,
Each passing host just like,
very
actually.
I don't know. I'll give it like maybe a 1, maybe a 2. I don't know.
It was pretty trash. What can I say?
What can I say? John Krasinski, who?
But I mean, we talk about the scary, though.
Yeah.
Out
of the spoopiness.
This is not like, this is a tense movie.
Sure.
But as far as it being like, I don't know. We've talked about this before, but this is like the exact kind of thing that really speaks to me about scary, is just building up this feeling of like, oh, something's wrong, something's going to happen. Whether or not this movie like really pays off on that in every way is questionable. So like on a scale of 1 to 13, I'd probably put this at like, I don't know, like a 6 or a 7. It is like a well-strung tension machine. So like if you're involved in the movie, you will feel tense. But in terms of being like scared and like actively fearful during the course of the movie, maybe not as much.
Yeah.
So 6 or 7 for me. I'll go 7. I'll go nice. I'll go the higher end of that spectrum.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think it's more just kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's definitely not like a Hereditary where you're like, man, I gotta not watch this for a couple of years. This is disturbing. I am quite frightened. But yeah, out of 13, I'll give it I'll match that. I'll give it a 7. I would say that's a fair number for it, in my opinion.
I think that's a really interesting, quandary to go around is like where does the tenseness start and the scariness kind of lead into that? Because to me, I feel like they're very hand in hand, where in a scary movie, the tension is kind of what makes it scary, but also I see how if it's just tense and no payoff, then can you really call it scary? It's a tough decision because I feel like it is probably one of the most intense movies I've watched in theaters, like where you are so, like I said, in the here and now, and so scared of what will happen next and fearful for the lives of these people, probably more than any movie I've seen. But I agree with Luke that it's not like the payoff or anything that actually happens matches the expectations. And when you're watching it, I don't even know if I feel like that's missing. Like, again, I think the movie was fine being what it did and not having a ton of jump scares. Like, I think that's a good thing. So it's tough to know what to give it because I think it is really effective. So I'm aiming to go high with this. I would give it around I think I'd give it an 8. So I'll just kind of walk up. It's not anything that's going to stay with you. You're not
Sure.
going to be sitting in your room and being like, all out, and
I
this
don't
thing's
know.
going to, like, I can't talk anymore.
I do have to say, the nail going through the foot when she
Ooh,
steps on it, yeah.
I'll be thinking of that going down the stairs.
Yeah, whenever I see
fair
stairs,
enough.
it's like, is there a nail in that bad boy?
Well, and I love that I step up to the plate and I'm like, is there tension? Yeah, but is it scary? Hard to say. When I was telling the story that, I went to see this movie with a friend of mine, and the whole time she's trying to talk to me, and I'm like,
Quiet, keep it down.
you have to keep it down. Like,
They're going to hear you.
giant thing of popcorn in my lap. I don't need a kernel of it. I'm just like, nah, man, nah. I don't want to risk it. These characters. I ain't gonna be the reason these characters die.
Can't put that on me.
Oh, man. Just the
So-
imagery. Okay. Anyway.
So I'm acting all tough, but in theaters,
Oh, wow,
agreeing with Adam, this is one of the most intense theater experiences I've ever had. It's
Yeah.
the most immersed I've ever been watching a movie in the theater, for sure.
Heck yeah. That's dope.
And hopefully the second movie will be a similar experience this weekend. So looking forward to
That was Lanson knocking on the wood, for anybody who was wondering.
You know, just good vibes.
That's
So departing from the actual reviewing part of this, let's dive into the killers, because usually in our podcast we talk about the killers, we talk about the victims, how both the decisions were made, and then we can make a better assessment on how we would fare. But let's start with the aliens. Obviously there are some glaring strengths and some glaring weaknesses, a little bit more black and white than maybe we've even dealt with in killers before, but let's kind of unpack that a little bit.
yeah. It's laid out so clearly.
Yeah.
Which is lovely for us. In
It
this
makes our job a
context.
lot easier.
I know. They, indestructible armor. So it's like hard to penetrate any of that. So they got that. I mean, they got pretty incredible speed. They got those little sharp arm crabby things that, can slash somebody up pretty good. So they got a lot physically that's going for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and clearly they seem to be like the superior beast. Like with a weapon like a shotgun or something, the characters do okay. But like even John Krasinski, like taking a swing with an axe, it just like bats him away. Like so like
Nothing.
yeah, clearly it has like a physical advantage. I would say that like the trickiest thing about this whole thing, diving into, so acknowledging directly they're like a plated creature. It's really hard to penetrate like the natural armor it's grown. But if it's exposed to like sound waves that are intense enough, so certain frequencies at certain volumes, obviously they're very sensitive to sound. So the characters slowly figure out that if they make a sound with a certain frequency at a certain volume, it makes like its head plates like open up enough that you can shoot in and hit the soft stuff and actually kill it.
That's
Yeah.
how they
That's like
figure out.
yeah, that's like the big realization of the movie.
Right.
So I would say like those strengths and weaknesses acknowledged straight up, which is like the big crux of the movie, which is this plating and how do you get around it? Oh, you get around it through sound. Getting into more nuanced stuff, I would say, to get to that point where you're close enough to shoot it in the skull, that is truly difficult because these things operate in terms of they find a noise, they hunt it down as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So, like, I think the thing we got to acknowledge straight up is that in order to kill one of these things, you got to somehow get close to it. And that's like those things, like, we don't, like, they're invisible, like, in the forest for, like, most of the movie. You don't even see them until somebody makes a sound and they just, from nowhere. And so I think, like, the idea of getting close enough to one to have the advantage is insanely unlikely. I mean, I guess the best you could do is maybe like set a trap. So you set up like big old speaker with a microphone plugged into it and stuff, and you get ready to blast that frequency at a really high volume. You rattle some cans or something, let the creatures come to you, whip out your trusty shotgun, and bam, bam, bam. So like But yeah, in terms of like getting close enough to one to do it any harm, I think that's our first major obstacle. Is getting anywhere near these things feels like a death sentence to me. Maybe I'm off. But like, what? And what do you guys think of this? But I feel like that's the first major obstacle is getting anywhere near one of these things.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's not like anybody is like scouting out these guys and like, okay, he's on the ridge. Let me just, like they hide and they're very elusive.
There isn't an American Sniper sequence.
There is no Chris Kyle. Just
it's a kid.
Gotta move. Bye, crab man. So yeah, you bring up a very good point. I think that's the tricky part, right? It would definitely, like, first of all, you kind of have to be in a defensive way because you can't go to them; they have to come to you.
Yeah,
and that has that's its own problems. You can't always see where they're coming from, and they're very, very fast. So So I guess you would definitely have to, and maybe this is getting into later on in the podcast, but you definitely have to make sure, like, if they were coming at you, that like there was only one way of access, and that you had a very, very familiarity with the entrance to where the creatures are coming into. But yeah, I mean, I don't really see, just to sum it up, I don't really see there being any like you being on the offensive or doing any long range sort of attacking. So it kind of limits your options pretty quick.
Absolutely. And it's what was my train of thought there?
Adam's busy thinking about rockets. He's just really lost in the world today.
Wow.
Rocket.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I remember now. After all this talk of rockets, I remember.
I remember everything.
You obviously don't see anything in this movie about how these things wiped out civilization. Yeah. But I think what is cool about these monsters and speaks a lot to their strengths is it's not a stretch to imagine that they did.
Right.
You watch them and you're like, those things could cause a lot of havoc to a lot of people really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And so I would imagine that things just went to shit so quickly, like, overnight, just a lot of people die.
Yeah.
And I think in this movie, we see these creatures deal with a world where there's not a lot of humans. There's some, you see the fires or the lights on the hillside, whatever. So where there's people, but the population is obviously so diminished to where we see it in a personal sense where it's just, but I don't know, if we're dealing with these things in a city where everyone's running around like a bunch of ants, like that's also another thing where, I don't know, it's also dependent on where you're at and what your surroundings are. So I think there's a lot of factors, and in most factors, these things come out on top as the things that will just murk you.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, quickly learning that I just happened to know a lot of behind the scenes things about this movie just offhand because I did not a lot of research. I remember when the movie came out that John Krasinski was saying in like interview after interview that he knew that this had to be a unique take on the alien invasion drama, right? Because he's like, you picture kind of the average thing, like Independence Day is a good one where it's like a president at the desk and he's like, what are we going to do about these goddamn aliens?
Yeah.
He's like, I wanted to like skip past that. I wanted to be like, the president doesn't even have the chance to like gather up a cabinet for a meeting. Like he's dead before he even like gets three of them in a room together.
Right.
And I do think, to its credit, like, I don't think I would be as interested in this movie if they spent a lot of time detailing like the destruction and detailing the decline of humanity. I think it's much stronger that it starts, even like at the very beginning, we see it's like 90 days or something after the aliens arrive, and basically everything's already kind of like decimated. Like, it happened that quickly. And I think that just makes a stronger movie. And again, speaking to what Lanson brought up, which is just the originality of this movie, it's great to have a movie like this where you don't see aliens show up. It's not detailing how they came into power. Mm-hmm. It's just stating as like a fact of life, like, yeah, they're here and they'll kill you.
Yeah.
So I guess that was more movie criticism than it was anything about the creatures themselves. But yeah, I think another thing to factor is it's really like poorly defined how many of these aliens there are.
Right.
Yeah.
All we get in this movie is that the area they live in has 3. That's
Right.
the most detail we're ever given. We have no idea how many showed up to like
Yeah.
destroy the
Yeah,
Earth.
total. Just 3.
And yeah, so it's like sheer numbers could get you, I think, especially with how quick and how powerful these things are.
Yeah, if there's a pack of them, there's just there's no way.
Good
you're getting
luck.
out of that alive.
I know, right?
And I do genuinely back to my point earlier, like if you were to set a trap where like as soon as they're like within a good amount of distance, you just start blasting your stereo with that frequency or whatever, maybe you could take on a pack, like
Right, because that would kind of have some mass
yeah.
effect.
Because obviously like sound waves disperse equally, so it wouldn't be like one of these dudes is just like shaking in the knees and the
Yeah.
other guy's like, oh, I'm fine.
Yeah.
That guy took the brunt of it. It's cool.
We're good.
So like, yeah, I mean, in terms of like how you could take these things down, there's not a lot of ways.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, I mean, there's the obvious, there's that certain frequency at that certain, at that certain, I almost said temperature, but that certain volume, and then you've got
Temperature would probably affect it too.
anything.
You got to get them sweating.
Yeah, maybe.
Got to get them sweating under that armor, so they just lift it up.
Just take it off.
Just air it out. Up here.
Wow. Oh, you tricked me.
That's the big reveal of A Quiet Place too, is that the armor's fully removable, and just whenever they get hot, these alien creatures are like, oh, let me just take off this old helmet.
That would be interesting. Are there throughout the movie? Do we see any other weaknesses or any times or any things that any vulnerabilities other than that? Like, is there anything else?
Yeah, not so much in the attacking department. If you're trying to like escape an area, there's plenty of that where it's like, okay, make a loud sound over here, and then I'll just make my exit over here. But like, as far as fighting one of these things, it's just kind of there's no other way, at least presented in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, we're more told about the armor than shown.
Sure.
It's in a lot of like newspaper clippings, and Lee, John Krasinski's character, like writes about it on his whiteboards or whatever. So we personally don't have any frame of reference for how tough this armor is.
Yeah.
But like that seems to be kind of just a catch-all for everything, right? Like,
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing that the U.S. military didn't try everything we had against those
Right.
creatures. They just unfortunately didn't put 2 and 2 together about the sound, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of mentioned this during the movie, but I guess, and this is like real risky, but like the inside of its mouth was soft because we saw that pretty clearly. So I
Right.
guess if you got close enough to one to just friggin' put a shotgun muzzle in its mouth and pull the trigger,
Yeah.
that could work. But again, the idea of getting close enough to do that is pretty
The speed that would take
know.
and the precision.
pretty dubious.
Yeah.
Not to mention these things, like it's ambiguous as to whether or not they feast on human flesh.
Yeah.
They definitely don't kill with their mouths.
Yeah.
They attack with their gangly spider crab limbs that slice and dice people up, and if they eat, they do it afterwards. So the idea that like if you got one coming at you full speed, maybe if it was going to use its mouth to attack you, you'd have a second to just. But
Yeah.
I don't think you're gonna get a good enough shot into the mouth before it just friggin' like slices you in half or whatever they do in the movie.
Yeah.
So I guess you could point that out. Without the sound, you could just aim for the mouth, and maybe that would turn out okay. But
Maybe.
yeah, conceptually, that's just a lot. I don't know that you'd be able to swing it.
I think I absolutely agree. I feel like the mouth is a vulnerability. Anything under the armor when it flexes that. And I think also a vulnerability is the fact that just the scenes where they're by the waterfall and the river, if there are louder sounds, then you're good. Like,
Yeah.
I think their hearing is super sensitive, but the fact that that's kind of a thing where, you know, you can be drowned out to where you can go to places they just will never hear you no matter how loud you are because there's louder things. That's not really a weakness when it comes to like hand to hand.
Oh,
you
sure.
know?
Yeah.
You're not gonna be able to best these creatures under the best of circumstances and those things. But I think where their weaknesses are is if you did what this family tried to do and just live
Right.
away from them,
Right.
evade them at all costs, which I think is probably the strat. I mean, we're not
Sure.
gonna get to that yet, but
Yeah.
so just like go live by the waterfall or something. I think that is a weakness that that would be easy to take advantage of. Again, doesn't really like kill them, but
but
it is something.
It's a way to survive, for
It's
sure.
a way to survive.
It is interesting that the creatures, to point to something else to consider as we're approaching this,
Yeah.
it seems that the creatures are fully able to determine what noises are man-made. Well, let me rephrase. What noises can be stopped and which noises they just have to avoid, right? Because like the waterfall, apparently they just don't go anywhere near the waterfall because they know we can't stop that noise.
Right.
Yeah.
But then also if they hear like some raccoons like wandering around in a cornfield, they track them down and they kill them.
Yeah.
So like, or even towards the end, like it somehow hears like the monitors in his office and it like goes down there to destroy the monitors. So somehow these creatures have an innate sense of like, so if you're trying to be like a smart aleck out there and you're like, yeah, I set up a speaker system and I play the Offspring 24/7, just speakers all around my house, blasting music in every direction. They'll never come near me. They seem to have a sense of what they can stop. So like,
Yeah.
you can't really circumvent it like that. It has to be like a naturally occurring loud noise that would never go away, like a running river or like a waterfall. Right. I'm not sure how many other examples of that you would have.
Yeah, that'd be tough. And I think it's anything they can't destroy, as your point is like maybe when they first came down, they went ape shit on a waterfall. And we're like, get out of here. And then they're like, oh, wait.
For days and days. And then they just like clicked at each other like, I don't think we're winning this one.
This is a war that we can't win. You win today, waterfall.
We just give this waterfall a wide berth. We just stay away.
So maybe
even
it is.
on the random days where it seems to be screaming.
That's probably fine.
The waterfall again.
Oh no, it's taunting us. It's okay, George. Don't worry about it.
So yeah, I think it would be really impossible to find something that would have a consistent louder sound that they can't actually destroy.
Yeah.
That isn't something like that. So yeah, that's a good point too. Are there any other thoughts on the strengths or weaknesses of the creatures as seen in the movie that you think are worth bringing up in this context?
I mean, like they're pure animal instinct. So that's one thing to keep in mind as we're formulating plans for survival is they're not dumb, but they're clearly not like intelligent predators designed to their own. Like, it's not like their only purpose is to hunt humans. Humans can very much live in this world just fine.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like genuinely their whole deal is just they want the quietest world possible. They got real sensitive ears and they want to be left alone. So, worth pointing out that, they're very animalistic. It's not like you're trying to outsmart some kind of like super genius or something, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not like the intelligent aliens that come down with their language and
I know,
like
right?
their arrival sort of thing where you're
Yeah.
like, what are they saying?
What
What do
the
they
what?
know?
What happened to Amy Adams' daughter? Give me answers.
Tell me, I want you to find that man.
Why is Jeremy Renner here?
Not doing anything. So that I think that is a very good point. They're animalistic. They're just acting on fight or flight, pain and pleasure instincts like any animal would.
Pure instinct, baby.
unfortunately, they're just so impenetrable that doesn't help a ton. But at least they're not. If they were like strategic about killing the humans, it would be a 24-hour job.
That's it. Yeah.
So that is a good thing. So let's step away from the killers. Do these have a name, Luke? Do you know in your research? Did John give them a name?
I don't know that he did. Not that I recall.
Okay.
If nothing else, not that I remember.
So
Crab Boys.
The Crab Boys,
We'll
the
call
Demigorgons.
Call them the Crab Boys.
Demigorgon.
Demigorgon.
Let's
fantastic art here, by the way. We did not draw this.
No,
we very
none
much
of
did
us
not
are
draw this.
are artistic enough.
This is a gift from our friend Sarah Bills. She drew that for us.
Sarah
It's fantastic.
$100 bills.
Sarah $100 bills.
Yeah,
Lanson's wife.
not true.
Hey, I don't know, maybe.
They can't know that. That can't be public record.
I am married to a woman named Sarah Bills.
It's not true.
Adam's going to go through this himself and bleep everything out. Beep, beep. He won't cut it out of the podcast. You'll still see it. He's just going to bleep it.
He's just gonna, bleep everything I say and then just put one of those pixelated things over my face the entire episode. You must not be named.
Lanson was Big Brother this whole time.
Oh no.
Let's talk about the victims.
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
So again, in order for us to know whether or not we could survive, we need to measure up the people who did or did not in the movie. What mistakes were made. Let's start with the strengths. I think is a good place. Like what did they have going for
I 100%
them?
thought you were going to be like, let's start with the 5-year-old child.
What were his weaknesses?
Come on,
Let's
bro.
start with Rocket Man.
Being an idiot.
The amount of slander we put towards a young child during the course of this movie. I regret nothing.
No, it's
a tough
It's
world
all
out
valid. So what did they have going for them? What were their strengths?
Yeah, I think they made a lot of good plans, and their heads were in the right space of like trying to, like you said, if you can't fight them, just try to avoid the aliens and try to live a somewhat decent life with your family. I feel like in preparation for the mom who's pregnant and going to be having a baby, they tried their best given the circumstance of like, let's make sure that we, since these creatures are attracted to sound, let's try to make a louder sound when she's delivering the baby, because obviously that's a super painful experience and you want to have the creatures out in another place while that's going on. I feel like them communicating with the lights turning red around their house and being like, hey, it's time to deliver the baby, like everybody get into position. So overall, I feel like they had their headspace was in the right place and they were trying to do the best that they could with the situation that they had. But, just like anything in life, like even the best laid plans go awry. So, yeah, that's my takes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a version of this movie where Emily Blunt doesn't step on a nail and everything is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Got hair in my mouth. Jeez. I'll cut that. I'm not going to cut it. Keep it in. Keep the struggle. It's real. Yeah, I think just... I will point out that they have an advantage going into it, which is their daughter, who I do not know the character's name. Millicent Simmons is the name of the actress. She is deaf, so they happen to know American Sign Language. They happen to have that already. They have effective communication. Even little League, whatever his freaking name was, Rocket Man.
Rocket Man.
Even Rocket Man spoke sign language well enough that he could go nonverbal when they needed him to.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he couldn't go no rocket ship when they needed him to.
Can't be everything.
Couldn't make it to the next level.
He's like, look, either I talk or I have a rocket ship. You guys,
you choose.
You got a choice here. So I do think. I mean, there's a lot going on here. Like, I think John Krasinski's supposed to be just like a farmer, but also he's smart enough to have hacked all this technology in his basement. He's building a cochlear implant for his daughter.
Yeah.
We have to give them some serious props in some areas that they have advantages that we don't. I mean, even Emily Blunt's character I read somewhere was supposedly a nurse before the aliens arrived. So she has special she's been able to prepare herself to have this baby. So they're smart. They problem solve in a way that I appreciate. I'm a problem solver, so I think some areas I'd be able to be like, yeah, I could do that. Like the fireworks to cover up like my wife giving birth. Maybe I could think of that. I think problem solving wise, I could probably put something like that together.
Yeah.
Even something like the red lights to indicate, hey, something's wrong.
Right.
But there's a lot of other stuff where I feel like we got to give a tip of the hat that they had certain advantages that we as average Joes do not. I mean, the extent of my sign language is I can say, do you know sign language? Thank you. And what?
Yeah.
That's about as good as it gets for me. So like communicating effectively in this world, I'm already like stumbling at a major hurdle.
It's very true. So I think those are all very good points. I think they were very well equipped, just almost like a luck thing to have these skills before, like Luke said. And there's a lot of decisions I think they made throughout the show that were very very smart. I think was it sand they were putting on the ground, or that to mask their footsteps was a very smart idea so they can get into town and back and around their yard. So I think those little things that would be so easy to screw up if you just like were quiet, but you were just winging it.
Even the thing of they put paint on the floorboards that don't creak.
Right.
So you would know where to step so that the floorboards don't creak.
Yeah.
I would like nail day one, keep totally quiet, have a peaceful night's sleep, wake up first thing in the morning, go to pee, step on a creaky floorboard and get chopped in half.
And I think what Lanson said I actually don't remember which one. No, it was Luke, where you were like, if she just didn't step on the nail, that was you, right?
Yeah.
That's such an interesting fact for me that like, yeah, they were pretty well set up and they had that quiet room with they try to make it soundproof as possible with the mattresses and
it worked, which is crazy.
It worked for a second and then it was breached, but like I think they had everything set up, but in this world there's just so many things that could go wrong even when you're so prepared. With all this being said, I mean, what were the things, either decisions that they made or maybe things that were kind of a luck thing that happened to them? What were the weaknesses in the victims?
Yeah, I think the number one weakness, and this is just a fact of life. When you're dealing with kids, when you're dealing with children, it's not going to be the same as like when you're dealing with an adult. Like because kids, they don't know any better. They're like learning and growing and trying to figure it out. So definitely that's a very hard thing as parents to be like, okay, this is the plan. This is what we have to do. This is what we have to keep to. When that isn't always what kids want to do.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I think them being a family, because I'd imagine a world where you're by yourself and it's just you, probably you might go insane. It might not be very good for you mentally, but a lot of these things would be a lot easier to traverse, not really needing to communicate, not needing to keep your kids busy so that they don't, go crazy. And so that just on its own, the fact that they're a family is a super detriment, I think. Even though it's nice.
Family. They'll kill you.
You think you're ready for the apocalypse. You're not.
Any video editors out there, do your thing.
Go for it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that's definitely, I can see that. I think decision-wise, I'm going through all the decisions that they made, and honestly, I don't know. I feel like they were all pretty good. Like they all, like we said, they did things that should have worked, and there were just some chinks in the armor that nobody could have really comprehended, but they seemed to be as prepared to the teeth as you could be. Yeah. I don't know. I think the decisions were pretty sound all throughout. I think especially at the end, just his self-sacrifice to save his kids was kind of the only option there. Like I couldn't think of anything else to help with that. And I even think them eventually figuring out the weakness wasn't like, I think there was a couple times where she could tell that it was affecting the creatures, but then there was that one time in the truck where she just turned it off because it was too loud, which I thought was interesting because, I don't know, it seemed like she knew. So maybe that was one thing where she could have put two and two together a little bit sooner, that her earpiece was something that affected them and would have saved John Krasinski a little bit. But I don't know. That's the only thing I can really think of. Are there any other weaknesses you guys can come up with for these guys?
They don't have to have a baby.
Yeah.
Fun fact, people out in the world, you don't have to have children. As a matter of fact, there's a large number of you. I would really like it if you didn't have children. I don't have time to name. I don't have time to go through all of you.
Yeah, you just got real.
I don't know. People. I don't have time to go through all of you by name, but there are people in my life that I occasionally look at, and I go, I really hope you don't propagate anything. I hope your family line ends with you.
So video editors, do your thing.
Video editors, do your thing.
Well, this is interesting because I was thinking about this too while I was talking, but I was like, before I say this, I probably should think this out. So the math, how long when she's having the baby has it been since the first attack? Like, has it been over 9 months then? Like, did they,
Probably, I'd imagine.
I think
conceive
so.
before? Or?
Yeah,
Let me
'cause it's like-
let me dive into this
It's
a
like
little.
day 89, and then it goes to day 400 something.
Oh.
400 something. I missed that. I did miss
Yeah.
that.
If it was
So-
400 and something, then yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure that
They
no.
were a little irresponsible at the wrong time.
guys. 473.
473. A little bird
was
just
that,
flew
God?
in to tell us.
God, is that you?
Thank you, Lord.
God is a woman. I kind of knew it, honestly.
Heck yeah.
Everybody knew that.
473. So yeah, like
So
Yeah.
definitely a bad
had-
decision.
Yeah.
so it wasn't like she was already pregnant when this
Yeah.
started going down. They had time to be like, you know what we should do about our dead son?
Have another.
Let's just replace him.
Yeah.
He gets the old one's room. Hope you like rockets.
So that's honestly probably the biggest
Yeah.
weakness. And not that was their demise, but I don't know.
Certainly complicates things.
Definitely complicated things.
Yeah.
Definitely would have been simpler if they're like, 3's good. Oh, never mind. 2's good.
I mean, we still have one boy. That's good enough. Yeah.
Yeah,
One boy, one girl. Let's keep it nice and balanced here.
I do think, and I feel like this is alluded to with John Krasinski's character a little, but never outright said.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of why he's so protective of his daughter is like because she's deaf in a world where sound is the most important thing. I personally saw some risk there. I seem to be the only person who has this opinion about this movie, but if she made a sound, she wouldn't know it. She can't hear
That's
that.
the truth, yeah.
So if she's even just walking out in the woods with him and accidentally like knocks over a log or something, like
She has no idea.
she has no idea that happened. We were joking around, but there's the scene where she lays down the rocket ship at her brother's grave. If she had clipped the wrong wire and it was fully making noise, she wouldn't know.
Yeah.
She'd be like-
what a nice moment.
She'd be like having a nice moment with her brother, and then suddenly she'd be with her brother in hell. No, it's heaven. Heaven. He's a little boy. Hey,
We're getting
it's heaven.
spicy.
Man.
Video editors.
Video
do
editors, do your thing.
So
5 point. Okay, it's only in my camera when I point. I just was worried for a second that it was going to be in your camera too.
Excuse me.
yeah, get your finger out of my camera.
Get out of there. Please, no. I don't.
I'm accidentally revealing to the audience where I'm sitting. They had no idea until now.
I found you.
Found you.
I can smell you.
Tracked you down like a couple of rubbish pigs.
The Krabby boys are in town.
Grammy boys are searching for their rubbish pig list.
Sif and Tiff. Oh, boy. But yeah.
Pancake rubbish pig.
Just a little Nesquik. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
So
like
anyway,
this audience? Okay,
hope so.
sorry.
This is why they clicked.
Hey.
It's like 1 a.m. Okay.
Goodness.
We're good.
So to summarize all that, I absolutely agree that the deafness of the girl was in many ways a strength because they knew the
for
sign
sure.
language, and also the things she was doing to
Yeah, with her
remedy it
implant,
were
yeah.
the things that ended up being the attack on the creatures.
Right.
But for her, it would be really tough to know if you're making noise, and that is definitely a weakness in this world, and probably a weakness for your family.
Yeah.
So that is a valid point.
And it's my opinion that that's why John Krasinski is kind of weird and protective towards his daughter.
Yeah, doesn't
the-
outright say, but
Yeah,
I think
the
that's
movie
fair.
the movie never really answers that question. She's just like, my dad hates me, so I hate him. Yeah, he clearly hates you. That's why he spends
Yeah.
hours of his life learning how to make a cochlear implant by hand.
Yeah,
That's, that's
Nothing says hatred like that. And I know parts of this conversation could easily be labeled as ableist. I'm really trying. It's really not my intention. It's really late, and I probably shouldn't be making this comment, but but I think genuinely in the context of this world, that is something to consider, and I think that's a lot of what's going on with John Krasinski's character and why he's so protective of his daughter.
Yeah.
That being said, like it's like Adam says, like the fact that they survived the movie ends up being due to her. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like I think in some ways he towards the end even knew that he was wrong. She's very capable, she's very smart,
Yeah.
and she does a pretty darn good job without him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Frankly, when he shows up to save her, the only person that dies is him. Actually, like another comment,
Yeah.
if the kids hadn't met up with the dad, maybe would have been okay. Because the only reason the kids are in jeopardy is because friggin' John Krasinski gets sideswiped by one of those things.
Yeah.
And then the little boy is stupidly like, Dad!
Dad, no.
Which, not to be like cold-hearted, but if that was my dad, I'd be like, sucks to be you, Dad, but I'm a stone silent killer today.
Quiet Coyote.
And to me, that was that I kind of forgot about that part, so I'm glad you brought it up again. Not to be cold-hearted, because they're kids, but I
sure.
mean, we're making fun of the rocket ship kid, so I can make fun of the other kid.
We're pulling no punches tonight.
He was so scared to even talk by the waterfall, and it seemed like in his facial expressions, just everything about this kid showed how scared he was of the world and how timid he was to make any sound. And so the fact that he yelled out at the end was kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Also, full criticism of this moment in the movie. I didn't process it until watching it this time.
Mm-hmm.
How on earth does that thing know that John Krasinski's there to swipe at him?
yeah,
He
Right.
is
super
dead
quiet.
silent.
Yeah.
Dead silent through the whole scene. By the way, earlier in this scene, he's in the cornfield. The thing runs past him, has no idea that he's there.
Yeah.
Somehow, while he's being stone silent, it knows that he's there and friggin' like
It's true. Yeah.
he should have been fine.
Sure.
That chain of events that leads to his death is a little hinky.
Yeah.
Little hinky.
Little hinky.
Very emotional. Very emotional. Makes me cry every time I
Great
watch
moment.
it. It's beautiful. It's great filmmaking. It's great storytelling.
Yeah.
But do I believe that is the outcome? Like that outcome was inevitable? On this watch through, I don't know that I did.
Sure. That's fair. That's
So-
a very fair assessment.
That's what I will say about it.
So I think we've done a good job assessing the victims, and this is a really interesting movie where the victims and the killers are just so capable and so incredibly smart.
Yeah.
But the killers are just, they were just dealt a better hand.
Oh, yeah.
Just evolutionarily, they're just the better.
They can literally ride a meteor to Earth. Can you
Yeah.
do that?
They're just.
When was the last
skateboard
time you
mode.
rode a meteor, Adam?
It's been a while,
It's been a minute.
since the 90s.
It's
probably.
been a while. Sorry.
Been a while.
So now, as part of the
Don't
show,
wanna miss a thing. Okay.
that the title of the show is alluding to, which is where we say once and for all, could we survive this movie, and how would we survive this movie? So we, if this is your first time watching the show, figure it out in a final boy status and a final girl status, alluding to the cliche of slasher movies where there's the final girl at the end who survives by the skin of her teeth, and the final boy who survived most of the movie but then tragically dies near the end. So what do you guys think? Do you think you could achieve at least final boy status?
It's a good question.
Thank you. It is the question. It's written on this piece of paper for me.
Is it really? Whoa.
Yeah.
Hey, check that out.
But I'll take credit.
Yeah. Okay. For me personally, what I will say is this. It depends on how we qualify Final Boy. If we say Final Boy doesn't die in the immediate onslaught of Earth, is smart enough to survive for like a few months or something, but then has an unfortunate accident and dies, like John Krasinski's probably a good format for the Final Boy in this movie, in that they've done a good job surviving, but just a set of circumstances turned really sour and he didn't make it out.
Yeah.
I think I could get there. I don't think I'd be someone who dies immediately. I think, look, I don't leave my apartment in the first place. I'm not going to be like downtown getting friggin' mugged by these things in a back alley. Like, I'm going to keep to myself for a bit, long enough to figure out, like, hey, they react to sound, and learn to be kind of quiet in my life. So I think I would last a bit. But yeah, I do have a lot of trouble believing that somehow I would be the one who discovers their weakness.
Right.
First of all, I don't even own a gun. I'd be like, I don't know. I'd be like, I hope you choke on me, bitch. I think that's about the extent of my rebellion against these guys.
Sure.
So I'm going to give myself final boy status, and I'm sorry to jump the gun, but,
Hey,
but
you're
I'm
good.
not going to give myself final
They're
girl status.
kind of lumped together. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to say not a total dum-dum. I got a little bit of survival time in me, but it's borrowed time.
Oh, that's a good question, man. You know what? I feel like I keep to myself enough that, the world's ending. I'd just be like, oh, no, my life changes. Maybe a couple points here and there. Whoa. You mean I can't talk to people or see people? Oh, how am I going to manage? Wow.
Dream come true.
I'm
for
like,
you.
this is
What
the
you,
best.
what you guys don't realize is Lanson Lappin has been locked in a closet for 3 days.
Yeah,
Nobody
bro.
put him there. He just went in. and
I
we
did it
haven't-
myself. I was just like, yeah, all right.
We haven't seen him in days.
Goodbye, cruel world, for a minute. Then they were like, hey, we got the podcast. Okay. Oh,
I can come out of that.
my public awaits, so might as well.
My audience.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess I can make it to final boy status, you kind of, I feel like if they put it in the paper and I'm in my apartment, I'm like, oh, okay, cool, like, they react to sound, so I will just be more silent than I
know what?
already am.
You know what? In the modern era, you don't even need to wait to read it in the paper.
That's true.
Somebody's going to tweet
Yep.
about it 3 seconds after figuring it out.
Bro, they react to sound.
/
Man, I'm so glad I've... Good thing I followed Elon Musk on Twitter.
Hooray! We're going to Mars, bro. You know what? There you go. Maybe I'll just be on Mars, so I won't even have to worry about that. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's
meteors don't go to Mars. That's a good point.
It's fine. They don't. They break up in the atmosphere.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
weird,
yeah.
and it's red, and it's just
You're right.
it's
It's just
not
different.
Earth.
It's
They wouldn't
different.
come there. So anyway, but that's a different answer for a different day. But yeah, final girl status. I don't think I'm gonna make it, but I think I would have a fail safe of just like, you know what? I don't know. Maybe I just pull the pin on a grenade. They're coming up, and I'm just like, here it goes. Either I blow up or I blow you up. So just huck it at the mouth. See what happens.
Ah, the Saving Private Ryan method.
Yes, the saving of the Ryan. Yep, that.
Yep.
The longest day.
Well
of
said.
course.
Well said. That's good. I would not survive this movie. Either final boy or final girl status.
Adam.
Which I usually say
Adam, don't do this.
with most movies because I don't believe in myself.
Don't
But
do
this
this.
movie especially because I am a loud person. And even if I was trying my hardest and being careful about every move, I get allergies really bad. and I sneeze really loud, and there's no stopping those guys. It's like a foghorn in the cool night. It's eruptive.
Oh, man.
There's no way I'm surviving more than 24 hours in this world. I'm quite dead. I think I would get far enough, just the randomness of there's so many people making so much sound that I will be making sound, but there's so many more people to feast on that they're quick, but I think I would survive a little while, but definitely not final boy status or final girl status.
Oh, we got a camera out.
One of
I
our cameras
lost the camera.
went out. So
That's a sign that we gotta rip
it's
it.
time to go. So we gave our verdicts. Thanks for listening, everybody. We got some plugs.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, since I'm the one on camera, I will deliver
Yeah, you
this
just give it to us.
pretty directly. First and foremost, we're doing these episodes special just for funsies because A Quiet Place 2 is going to be out in theaters. But Season 2 of Final Boy Status begins in earnest, we can say now, July 16th, 2021. So please
Really
join
check it
us. We have so many episodes planned for you guys. We've already done a few. It's been really fun. We're planning some other stuff as well. It's just going to be a good time. I guess since this is going to come out tomorrow, I can take advantage of something that I couldn't take advantage of in the last episode we did. But I am directing a play. It's called Keystone. It's going to be at the On Pitch Performing Arts Center this July. It's really good. It's a story about a father and son. Very worth your time. I would ask you to come check that out if you feel so inclined.
Wherever you are in the world, just make your way
Fly out here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fly out here.
It'd be worth it.
You'll meet me personally. And
Yeah.
what about you, gentlemen?
As always, keep watching the show.
Please.
We love it. We love you guys. Final Boy Status.
Rock and roll.
We're going to end it there. Bye, guys.
This has been an Underqualified Idiocracy media production, produced by Lanson Lappin, Adam Bone, and Luke Haueter. Theme music for the episode was written by Rachel Robison. You can hear more of Rachel's music at rachelrobinsonmusic.com. You can also find her on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching at Robel Racheson. Artwork for the YouTube version of this podcast was created by Trinity Rodriguez. You can follow her on Twitter by searching at InstrinBaby to see more of her work. This podcast was recorded in Underqualified Studios and edited by Luke Haueter, with special thanks to Mike Fuchs for providing audio assistance. The illustrious voice acting providing the intro and outro of this episode is Shane Alvey of the Paradox Files voice acting. You can explore more of his work on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching at The Paradox Files.